Okay, so we're on to session 3 of our English for this week already. I hope you've enjoyed the 2 different stories from another culture that we've watched so far this week. Today we're going to be thinking some more about your own stories that you planned yesterday. So I just wanted to go back towards the end of yesterday's lesson where I shared with you a little bit of a snippet from my story of how the badger got his stripes. So I know a badger is native to Britain. I know that this is going to be a typically British story, and I'm going to be thinking about how I can get the culture of Britain into my story using the same structure that I've seen from the other traditional tales that we've watched from the African folk tales from this week so far. So my main character is going to be a badger. He's going to be sad due to being completely dark all over, completely black, and he just completely blends in with the night time. And lots of his family members are being run over, and he's concerned that one day he's going to be badly hurt or even he will be killed. So he's quite miserable, following the same structure from the stories that we've seen. So in his misery, he meets some new friends and he asks them for some advice, and he asks them how he can stay safe. Okay, and some friends, and I've purposely chosen characters from a typically British countryside that we might find. A spider would give him some advice and say perhaps he could build a web away from the road. Okay, not sure that's something a badger can do. A rabbit, another typically British animal that we might find in our wildlife, a rabbit is suggesting eat lots of carrots because it'll help you to see in the dark. But we know that's not the problem. We know that actually it's other people that can't see him, not him not being able to see in the dark. And then a robin also says, well, paint yourself. Paint yourself bright, add some colour to yourself, a bit like the red on a robin, perhaps. So he uses his friend's advice and he goes to visit Owl, another animal typically of the British wildlife. And the owl gives him some daffodils. The wise old owl suggests that the daffodils will give him that colour that he wishes. So he rubs the daffodils into his face, but they make him turn bright yellow and he feels ridiculous. So he laughs, everybody laughs at him, and he runs away and he hides. So he's into another problem now. So the owl finds him and he tries to take him to the river and he helps him to wash the yellow stain away. And as he removes some of the yellow, it leaves a nice white stripe. And that white stripe means that he can be seen by the car's headlights. He's no longer in danger. So the problem has been solved. And at the end there, we know we've got a happy badger. The cars can now avoid him on the road. He's no longer invisible to the car's headlights. The white stripe helps him to be seen. Okay, so it will help you at the beginning of this session to talk through your structure with a member of your family, just like I've done with you, so that you've got 5 really clear points following the same structure of the stories from a different culture that we've looked at already. Okay, so we followed the same structure, but today's lesson we're going to be thinking about how we can make these stories typically British. Okay, we talked about the different language that we saw in the African folk tales, so we're going to be thinking about how we can use typical British phrases called idioms as a figure of speech to add into our stories. And I just want you to add them into your story plan today. Okay, so we know that an idiom is a word or a phrase or an expression that has a different meaning to actually what's being said. And as British people, we use loads of them. And that's what today's lesson is going to be about. I want you to research how many different typical British phrases that we use where we say something and we actually mean something completely different. So an example of that might be, that's a piece of cake. Okay, we don't actually mean that there's a piece of cake right there. When we say that, we mean, well, that's really easy. Okay, so it's nothing about cake at all. And that's what I mean by an idiom. Okay, what other examples can you think of, or what other examples can you find? So I've done some research, as exactly like I want you to do in a little while. It's raining cats and dogs. We know when that phrase is said, it doesn't mean it is actually raining cats and dogs. It means it's raining really hard. Okay, and it's a typical British saying. A piece of cake, as we said, is something that's really easy to do. Hold your horses. There's nothing about actually holding horses. It actually means slow down a bit, take things a bit easier. Okay, another one that I've found there, when you say you're as cool as a cucumber, okay, it doesn't mean you're anything like a cucumber, it just means you're calm. and you're relaxed, okay? So I want you to do a little bit of research for today's session. You can use the internet to help you. You can talk to people in your family, because I'm sure your parents will know lots of these. I want you to come up with your own idioms that you can use in your own story to make it a typically British story, okay? And then once you've come up with some ones that you like in particular, I want you to add them to your story plan from yesterday, okay? Just add them into different parts of your story. Okay, I look forward to seeing them. Pause the video here and come back tomorrow ready for session 4. Okay, I'd be really interested to hear or see some of those idioms that you found from yesterday. So welcome back to session 4 today from our Stories from Another Culture learning. We've got to the stage now where you've planned out your own story. We know the structure really well that the story is going to follow. We've seen some typical African stories that we're going to be using as inspiration for our own versions of that. I hope that you enjoyed finding out some of those idioms from yesterday. I know some of them are really, really funny. So when we write our stories, and you can see my story plan there from yesterday, when we write our stories, we're not going to write them as a simple story, okay? We're going to write them as a play script. So a play script is often written when somebody or actors, other people, are going to act out your story. Okay, so there's going to be some characters that will take on the role of the actors, and they're going to be on stage and they will be performing the story that you've written. Okay, so in order to be able to write a play script, we need to have a really good understanding of what a play script is. So we're going to look at some examples, and that's going to be the focus of today's lesson. By the end of today's session, you're going to have a really good understanding of exactly what a play script is and what things it needs to include, so that you'll be ready to start writing your play scripts next week. Okay, so what is a play script and what makes it different to a story? The play script that I'm going to be using here, I've got 2 different examples of play scripts that exist. So I've got one from an Alice in Wonderland play, a story that lots of you will probably be familiar with, and then a bit later on we've got one from a BFG play as well, again another story that I'm sure you're familiar with. So when there is a play script written, the first thing that you'd often see on a play script would be a list of character names, okay, and probably a little bit of information about what the character's like. So you can see Alice is the main character, the young girl who's lost in Wonderland. Just a few short facts about the characters in the story: the Mad Hatter, the Hare, and the Dormouse. Okay, so the main characters are introduced. So you're going to need that for your stories as well, a list of the characters and a little bit of information about them. Okay, and it also says at the beginning of the play script, you'll find a list of all the characters who are in the play, and it's just to find out exactly who's there and what they're like, so that the actors know exactly how to act them, okay, how they can be like. Okay, they also have just a little bit of information about them so that they know how to put personality to that character as they're playing them. Okay, so after the list of characters, you'll then see it gives you a little bit of information about the scene number, the setting of where the scene is, and kind of what's going on. Okay, so it's a bit like the chapters in the book. This is the section of the script which is broken down into scenes, and the new scene usually means a new setting. So we can see this example here is scene number 7, so it would be like chapter number 7 of the story, and you can see that it's a mad tea party, and there's just a simple sentence which just describes what's going on, so that the actors know how to set the stage up. Okay, so there's going to be the Mad Hatter, the Dormouse, and the Hare, and they're sitting at a table having afternoon tea in this story. Okay, just a simple description there. After that, you've then got what the actors need to say. So the speaker's name with a colon and the speech that they say. So you always have the speaker's name on the left side of the page, followed by a colon. Okay, and that tells the actors that they don't need to say those words. Okay, that's the character's name. And then the speech or the dialogue, the thing that that actor says, then follows on from the colon. Okay, so we can see that this actor would need to say, "Guards, get off there, off with her head, off with her head." Okay, so it's written in a way that they can act it out. You'll notice that there's no inverted commas. There are no speech marks included with this in a play script, and that's done on purpose, okay, because it just adds all of it is speech, okay, it just adds in all of what is being said, okay. Sometimes though the actors need to know how to do something or how to say something, and they come in the form of stage directions, and they're written in brackets. So sometimes before the dialogue and after the colon you then have the stage directions, and this one gives example of how the character needs to act anxiously while rushing across the stage, so they know exactly what they've got to do as well as what they've got to say. I'm late, okay. The things in the brackets, the actors will know that that's not what they need to say, okay, it's just the things that they do, okay. And then we can also see that sometimes there's a narrator included, and they're the people that set the scene, explain a bit more to the audience, and kind of tells the story. When we watched the elephant, how the elephant got his trunk earlier in the week, the monkey was the narrator, and he started off the story and he told a few things that was going on, and you could hear him in the background helping the audience to understand exactly what was going on. He took on the job of the narrator. So you might want to have a narrator in your story as well, okay? And they just set the scene, but not all plays have to have a narrator. It's completely up to you, okay? You'll also notice that all of the stage directions are written in present tense because they're exactly what the actor is doing at that moment, okay? So they're happening at that time, so it's written in present tense, okay? So your task for today is, I've popped on the Google Drive an example of a different play script from the one that we've just looked at. So it's from a BFG play, and it's from a particular scene called Snozcumber and Frobscrottle. Okay, I want you to use that play script. You can print it out if you have a printer, or you can do it on screen. It's whatever's easiest for you. And I want you to have a go at you finding all of those features that I've just mentioned to you. So use the PowerPoint that we've been looking at today, and go back through all of those features and see if you can find them. I want you to write all over the play script to show exactly where you can see those features and how they've been written, okay. Once you've done that, you can see that there's 2 pages of the play script. Once you've done that, you're going to have a really good understanding of exactly what your story is going to look like on the page, okay. So that's it for today, Year 4, and that's it for this week. I'm really looking forward to seeing these stories develop. Next week, we'll start thinking about putting our ideas down on the page and starting to write our play scripts. Okay. Thanks very much, guys. See you next week. Bye bye.